Hi, this is Beth McGinnis. I'm at Samford University for an interview together with Mr. Issac Lanier and Mr. Tony DeVaughn and Mr. Nolan Crawley. And with us today, helping with the interview, are Sarah Harbaugh and Samuel Robertson. So we are so glad that you're here today. Can I get us started with one question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Samuel and Sarah. So Mr. Lanier and Mr. DeVaughn, would you just tell us a little bit about how our partnership together got started and where it's gone from there?
I remember you reaching out to us last year, and we never had to reach out to you. You reached straight out to us and with open hands, and just tried to help our program as much as possible. And when you get help like that, you don't run it away. When you get help like that, you don't not appreciate that help. So you go back to that help, and you build that relationship. So we built the relationship just based off of the love for you that you all have for our area that we're from, and the students that we participate with. So we just love it all together, and we appreciate you all.
Totally agree. I just remember on last year when my principal told me that an ensemble would be coming to perform. I got excited because the kids didn't really know how much of an impact it would make. But I remember being in undergrad and have to do the long tones and going to applied classes to be able to achieve the proper sound to participate in the ensemble. So to be able to have somebody to come around to my band room and exemplify all of that talent for my students, because it's a poverty area. So sometimes we can't always afford to go, and if we can, sometimes the timing doesn't allow us to participate.
And seeing it from a perspective that they don't normally see.
That's been helpful for our students too. This is it's so helpful to see a perspective that we don't normally see. Also.
Absolutely.
Samuel and Sarah?
Yeah, so we could just start going down the line and just talking about your life. Just tell us about you and also how you got to where you are now. Yeah.
Well, me, I started band young. I was an athlete at first. Of this age, I'm 6'3". I'm 250 pounds. I've always been a big guy, but I've always loved the music. I've always been in a band program, even though I played sports. I kind of got looked down by my coaches from doing sports. They used to call me Big Flute. I was on the basketball court. What you doing, Big Flute? I'm like, yeah, basketball. You ain't band practice, Big Flute. No, you need to be a basketball practice or be out on somebody's field. But I love the music. It was my first go-to, and after a while, I kind of left sports alone and did put all my eggs in one basket with the music, and it worked out for me.
I think with me not being from the South, band was kind of the last stop, to be honest. I played basketball, I played football. In New York, stuff is a lot different. I actually did boxing and wrestling. That's way bigger than that's way bigger than basketball and football. It's phenomenal up there. And so when I moved down, relocated to the South, I actually saw somebody I just couldn't take my eyes off, and she happened to be in the band. And I asked her, I said, "What you play?" She said, "I play a baritone." I said, "Oh, well." It is. Next morning, I said, "You got room in your band?" She said, "Yeah." Nice. So I kind of just stuck with it. Everybody kind of know what they wanted to do and who they wanted to be on the team. And once I kind of figured that out, not being from the area, I said, well, let me just stick with this band thing, I can get my shine on with this. And I made a promise to myself that by the time I made it to college or graduated from high school, everybody would know what the marching baritone was, because it was not a popular instrument at all.
Okay. I heard that we call it. We call it.
It was like a fourth trombone in most bands. Baritone didn't really have identity.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not involved in the music program.
Yeah.
But I am involved in the arts programs. Lanier and I are working together trying to get a lot more funding for our school and start a whole mess of artistic programs. I'm from New York too,
Okay.
but I was always kind of an artsy kid. I'm a Teach for America teacher, so that's why I'm down here in rural Alabama. That matters to your interview. Yeah.
Can you tell us about some of what you're doing to try to find funding, or just talk about that situation?
There are a number of artistic programs, specifically out of Selma and other communities in the Black Belt, but specifically Selma, the city of Selma, that work with low-income communities, trying to get them funding for art programs for any number of reasons.
But you're a history professor?
English and history. I teach 9th through 12th English and history. So, I mean, but I love literature, and I try to teach from an artistic standpoint at all times.
How'd you end up in Alabama from New York?
When I was applying for Teach for America, I just was like, sure, throw me anywhere, and here I am.
Awesome. Yeah.
You mentioned funding, and I know, Mr. DeVaughn, you recently had a lot of funding help for new instruments in your band. Has those new instruments,
Very blessed to.
has that increased the amount of students interested in the band?
Yes, it's freed up a lot of instruments for people to be able to join. At one point I had more students want to join the band than instruments available. So now that I have the instruments, maybe I have more students pour in as well.
And before we go on, I have to make sure I say our principals and our superintendent is a major support because a lot of school systems, they don't have the proper support for whatever reason. You know, I'm not going to speculate on it. But I can say just this past year, of course, our principals have to be on the same accord to allow this program to happen with both our bands combined. But also our superintendent banded together to buy like 90% of Concordia College's instruments to be able to help and expand us and let us split them.
We were on the news recently at Concordia from their liquidation sale that they did on their instruments. We got a chance to talk about how much it helped out our program as well.
So it's a blessing when you can just call your superintendent and say, hey, we're trying to build a band. You know, we want to make a better program. You know, can you get us these horns? And he say, go get them. You don't get that often. And I mean, these are sousaphones we're talking about. Brass instruments, things that cost $6,000 a piece. So, you know, we're blessed to have that as well.
On top of our technology package that we have in Perry County. In Perry County, we have every student has an iPad. Every teacher has a MacBook, Apple TV. Those are the things that they look for first and foremost. Priority wise is the technology, but for them to be able to look out for us as well with the music is a blessing because we get looked over so often.
Both of the basketball teams are area champs, returning area champs. Let me say that. So yeah, Perry County's a lot of positive things going on in Perry County, despite what people are saying.
It's good secret.
Tell me a little bit of, I'm sorry, one of you. I've talked with both of you a little bit. Sorry, Mr. Crawley, I haven't talked with you as much. I've talked with both of you about the rivalry and competition between your two schools, but also this great collaboration that you have. So could you tell me a little bit about how you balance that, how you keep both of those energies going?
Well, we don't really have to talk about the competitive part because I think that's inbred within the county. You know, like we're kind of just inherited
to the area.
Yeah, we're just inherited the rivalry, you know, because we were brothers long before, you know, and we didn't like we planned this. It's just maybe a God idea.
Yeah.
But balance it off, I think we just all put our best foot forward and make sure that we're all teaching our kids, you know, important values such as sportsmanship, musicianship, leadership, and academic attainment. You got anything to add to that?
I feel like when they see us connect, it makes them want to connect too. If they saw us put on and be negative towards each other, it'll make them be negative towards each other. Once they see us vibe and be positive and don't throw shade, they have a better vibe between each other. And they want to learn from each other as well.
Hopefully we just keep it like that because it's getting to the point now where if we're together, I don't have kids that's nervous and say, hey, Mr. DeVaughn, I need help with, or can you show me this? Or, you know, everybody's fully accepting of the knowledge.
And likewise, my students respond to him just like they respond to me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that when you're here. Sorry, you guys were about to ask something.
Well, Mr. Lanier, I was just a little curious about, have you noticed how things are, if anything's like different in the South? Have you, especially with music or band? Or?
Especially, I'm going to be honest, up north is more, I don't really have an adjective to describe it, but in the South, you know, marching band is very big. Whereas if you go to a football game in Albany, where I'm from, you don't see a band at all. You know, if there's not an audience cheering people on, this game is quiet unless you hear the helmets and the shoulder pads clacking together. Other than that, you know, it's silence. DJ. When I first joined the band and came to the South, I think drumline was just coming out. So, you know, half times, you know, that wasn't the time to go get your hot dog. You go get that within the last 2 minutes of playing. Because once the halftime show, you know, nobody's moving. And that was weird to me. So I knew it was something special about it. I just couldn't wrap my finger around it.
He brought up the movie Drumline. Drumline played such a huge role in our era of musicians becoming musicians. That movie came out in like 2001, 2002. We would have been in the 4th and 5th grade. That's the start of, you know, when you would start to learn the instrument. I joined the band after watching that movie. Not to mention I had band members, you know, all throughout my family. But after watching that movie, it made a lot of our era want to join the band.
Everybody wanted to play drums. Everybody wanted to be in the band. You know, everybody want to face off, have competition. So, yeah.
I credit that movie a lot for, you know, just
definitely an epidemic.
The upcome of musicians.
Now I'm going to have to go watch the movie Drumline.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
And if you see me in Drumline too, just shoot me a text message.
Okay.
So, obviously, marching band is your focus. What do you guys do on the off season when there's no football?
I try to definitely run through a lot of the basics that they don't get to go over like that during the marching season, because during the marching season after school, like I never see all of my students during the day. First of all,
I think both of our situations are real similar with that. With you having with the small rural area, you only have so many students, but we're not in a position really to be political and say, hey, you got to be in the band. You can't play basketball because we don't know whether we're looking at the next symphonic director or we're looking at the next NBA star. So it's kind of hard.
Or the next track star or the next chess champion, because every student does every extracurricular.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at a 1A school like we are, the same students do everything. You got those students that's at the school that do, you know, that won't participate in anything, but you got your set maybe 20, 25 that's in every
honor society. They in band, basketball, football, track, baseball, you know, whatever's available to make.
So it's almost impossible to share those students throughout the semester. So what I like to do in the concert season is take time and really, hey, sit down. This is this is that. And by the time we put all our basics together for the next marching season, they up the park.
Yeah, it's just like things have to be done a little different.
We have to rush it so bad during the fall, because it's got to be a show out there. And if it's not a show out there,
yeah, we gonna hear about it.
Yeah.
Do you do anything over the summer?
I usually start 2 maybe to 1 week before school starts with a small camp. I run a camp from like 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. That works for my students because you got cheerleaders that's in the band that all practice from 8 to 12. So I try to, you know, work out a time to where, hey, you're here for my rehearsal, but you also at where you need to be as well too, and be able to manage your time. That's one of my students' main rules of being in the band. If you're in anything else, it's hard. I tell them this all the time. It's hard serving 2 gods. It's hard. But if you're in 2 extracurriculars, manage your time.
I do a pre-camp because this might sound lazy, but it is what it is. I feel like I work very, very hard during the year, from the month of August to the last day of May. Mm-hmm. And I talk to Dr. McGinnis a lot. You know, sometimes even if it has nothing to do with Samford, sometimes I may ask her for advice because it's always been me. You know, respect your elders. I was raised really old-fashioned. So what I do is after spring break, you know, everybody go let their hair down. And when they come back to school, by then I've already assessed who wants to be in the band, because I only accept the best, not the rest. You know, I only want you to do it if you want to do it. I'm not going to force anything down your throat, I can do it and you'll still be great. But imagine how great you would be if you actually wanted to be here and you wanted to do it. So what I do is I recruit, I find out who wants to do it. You have to filter them out. And after spring break, I do after school rehearsals for maybe like an hour. And I would do like upper brass one day, I would do lower brass one day, do one day working with percussion. Then I would have like maybe like one day, at the end of every 2-week period where I would take them combined, because I would have like beginning literature that they would play, little chorales and little stuff like that. And to be able to hear other things, it's a long process, but I think it's worth it. And so I do that pretty much the end of the school year. And that's kind of like my band camp, because even after band camp, you got to exercise every day with me. The things we do at band camp, I'm doing them every day. So when we do them, it's almost like breathing. You know what's up.
I remember we did an interview with Kathy Trimble last year, and she talked about how it was kind of hard to get students to stay after school because their primary source of transportation was the school bus. Yes. Do you find that a problem in the summer and after school?
Definitely. Like, if this is, I know we're on podcast and I know I'm giving a visual, but if this is Marion and this is Uniontown, and the schools are in each city, you may have a student that stays right here and it take an hour and a half to get to the house or far ways to get to the house, and that may be their only source of transportation. So,
and you just have other casualties that you just can't even account for, such as car troubles, emergencies, parents being at work, anything.
Siblings having to take care of the siblings, you name it. They live responsible. Well, they have to be responsible once they leave school. They live very grown lives once they leave school. Mm-hmm. With the responsibilities that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the school buses running over the summer? Like, I feel like it would be much harder to get them there.
It would be almost impossible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Almost impossible to let them buses run over the summer. Mm-hmm. I've known schools that do it with the like even in Birmingham does a camp up here for a week every year at Carver High School. But they send those buses out, but it's through the board. If the board approves of it, hey, we would love it. But
yeah, I mean, maybe you guys could take and give us some help us out, and maybe, because like I said, we have a supportive system. I feel like if we came to them correct, with numbers and residuals and processes as well as projected results, they would be likely to do things. We do things differently, but we still come out the same way. He's really keen on concert, whereas where I came from, I did a lot of marching. Mm-hmm. He has an excellent symphonic band, and I have a superior rated marching band. But either way, we're still combined, able to still do the same thing. So maybe that's something we could shoot for toward in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is maybe more for Mr. Crawley, but how do you see the other arts being implemented, like visual art or dance or whatever?
I also teach an elective drama. Okay. So, obviously music and drama mix so well together. And I think a lot of the issues that we face, and I think you two can attest to it, is there's just simply a lack of money in our schools. The talent is there, the skills are there. Yep. No matter what people say about our students, they're incredible. I can attest to that. Because I spend so much time with them.
Some of the people downstairs are beginners, and you wouldn't even know it.
Incredible stuff. And the same thing with my students. They can write, like you always hear about world test scores and how low they are. My students benchmark an ACT growth in 9th grade. Like if you put in the work, they can produce the results that you need, which is why we're working so hard to get funding. The possibilities of working with music and the visual arts, like I did sculpture. I was a sculpture minor in my art school that I went to in New York. So it's like we can put, I have tons of friends from the DT program, always working with musicians, trying to set up post shows and garage bands or whatever. But down here, you can apply that same sort of stuff down here. I'm sure we can come up with something fantastic, like props for shows. We can do things for football or basketball because they're so huge down here. Something I can also attest to is a sense of community down here in the South that just doesn't exist up north. And I think if you give, especially so many of these kids who just lack the resources to express themselves artistically in a way that they can't because they just lack the resources, beautiful things will happen.
I don't think I could have said it no way. I see why you're alone, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you came.
Me, on the other hand, at Francis, I am the only fine art in the school. So without coming to my class, without coming to see me for at least band or music theater, which is my other class that I teach, you won't have a fine art credit to graduate. There's no choir. There's no strings. There's no visual art.
We are the music in fine arts in Perry County, to be honest.
And that's your music appreciation class, Mr. DeVaughn, the way that you've organized it. Is it still 2 hours a day for a semester that every student takes?
Close to 2 hours. That class starts around 9:20. Yeah, 9:20ish, and that class lets out at 11:22. Yeah, so about 2 hours.
And so everybody, that's one way that they get their fine arts credit, or they're in band, or they do
they've
music
actually
theater.
switched my curriculum since last year. I was teaching music appreciation where I had a curriculum book, but now I teach music theater, and it's new to me. It's a new curriculum. Being a band director, it was kind of, outside of my comfort zone, but I kind of teach it as a sort of a movie quiz class. Where I have Broadway movies that I show them that I loved as a child and break it down, interpret it to them, the dialogues, the songs, you name it, and we test out on it. Like we just did a Phantom of the Opera versus Phantom of the Opera comparison. There's so many different versions of that movie. We've done The Wizard of Oz versus The Wiz. We've done The Temptations versus The Five Heartbeats.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And right now we on Dreamgirls studying the 1982 Dreamgirls versus the 2006 with Beyonce and Jennifer Hudson and Eddie Murphy, all those other characters.
I think for my extra one, I do music technology. I know a lot of kids, they talk about they want to rap, they want to sing, they want to do this. Okay, well, let's show you how to properly do it. Do you know what a hook is? Do you know what a chorus is? Do you know what an ad-lib is? Let's talk about percussion kits. Let's really get down to the technicality of it instead of you saying, I made a beat, I like the way it sounds. Let's talk about the tempo, wavelengths, frequencies, different stuff like that. And I actually have a playlist where 2 semesters straight where they've made like an album. So it's I say we make do with what we have.
That's wonderful. I want to continue this conversation. We probably ought to transition because we're due on the stage at 1:45 in 10 minutes. So, but thank you so much for speaking with us today, and we'll keep talking.
Yeah.